Welcome to Bunny Trails, a whimsical adventure of idioms and other turns of phrase. I'm Dan Pugh.
And I'm Shauna Harrison. Each week, we take an idiom or other turn of phrase and try to tell the story from its entry into the English language to how it's used today. This week, we're back with another quick Quips episode, a bite-sized dive into phrases that don't quite fit our usual format. Today, we're going AWOL. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, AWOL means, quote, absent without leave. Broadly, absent often without notice or permission, end quote. We mostly use AWOL today to say that someone is gone and nobody knows where they've gone or why they aren't where they're supposed to be. And it's applied really fairly broadly.
I think I was first introduced to the term in the generic sense, like someone just not, where's so-and-so? I don't know, he's gone AWOL, and they're not around. And it wasn't until I was watching old episodes of MASH at my grandma's house that I heard them use the term, and it made me think, oh, this must be some sort of a military thing,
Right.
AWOL, AWOL, absent without leave. So then I was like, okay. So now I'm curious, is that where this comes from? Is this like a Korean War thing, or is it earlier than that, or is it even a military thing at all, or did they adopt it? Like where? Okay, I'm curious.
All right, so yeah, it didn't start out as a general or broad term. According to Online Etymology Dictionary, AWOL, also AWOL, is, quote, a military initialism and acronym for absent without leave. The phrase itself is attested by 1767 in a military context. In U.S. military use by 1917. According to the Dictionary of Contemporary American Usage, 1957, it was pronounced as 4 letters in World War I, AWOL, and as a word in World War II, AWOL, end quote.
Oh, wow. So like you're talking 20 years time frame, it went from AWOL to AWOL.
Yeah.
Like as its own word now. So yeah, it went from being a initialism to an acronym. Initialism is when you say the letters AWOL, right? And then an acronym would be like AWOL when you're pronouncing it as if it's its own word.
Correct. In newspapers and other publications in the mid-1800s, rewards were offered for the location of soldiers who were missing, or information about them. Lists of names were given and the status of the soldier listed afterwards. So it might say Captain Smith, absent without leave. When reading dozens of names such as this, it's easy to understand how people became familiar with the phrase really quickly.
Sure. Yeah. So. Newspapers were the bee's knees for a very long time.
And in a couple of the newspapers that I saw, the rewards were upwards of $1,000, $1,500, which at the time was a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's not an insignificant amount of money now.
Right. Yeah. As millions of civilians heard the term during World War I and II through newspapers and radio, AWOL slipped into everyday language. Over time, the consequences faded and the tone softened. So today, when somebody says they went AWOL, they don't mean they committed a military offense. They just mean they disappeared for a while.
Okay, gotcha. Or have disappeared and are still disappeared.
Correct. In the 1919 work SOS, America's Miracle in France by Isaac Frederick Marcusson, we find the term used to describe a soldier who had been assigned a desk job after returning from battle. Quote, one night he approached a comrade and asked if he could borrow 100 francs. What do you want to do with this money? Asked his mate. I want to beat it AWOL, shoot across France and join my outfit in the trenches, was his reply, end quote.
1919 would have been World War I era.
This highlights an important aspect of the phrase and why it turned into what it is today. Being absent without leave isn't the same as desertion, which implies the person has no intention of returning to military service. So This is World War I. They were using it to say they were just not at their post, right?
Right, because
so
he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to desert.
Yeah.
He wanted to join his unit up at the front lines.
Right, and even he said the term as AWOL. And this has been a distinction in the military the entire time. They always used it to be something separate from desertion. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
AWOL means exactly what it says, absent without leave. So the intent's not assumed or implied by the statement, at least in those military terms. And the phrase is often used in a neutral context, like taking roll in a classroom. The person's just not where they're scheduled to be. The phrase made it into the funny pages by the mid-1900s, appearing in the comic strip Reg'lar Fellas in the Herald out of Cleveland, Ohio, May 3rd, 1946. A group of boys talked to one another. Quote, "Why weren't you in school yesterday, Pinhead? Were you AWOL? What's that mean, Jim?" AWL means absent without leave. Oh, I get it. Well, our stuff didn't come back from the cleaners, so I was AWOP. AWOP? Yeah, absent without pants. End quote.
Oh, man.
And they all walk away laughing together, so,
Absent without pants. That's, that's pretty much I think everyone who went to high school had some sort of a
Had a
concern,
nightmare
like a dream of like going to school and no pants or naked or something like that.
Yeah. So that was his excuse for being AWOL was
Yeah.
AWOL.
He was AWOP.
Yeah. So we can tell from this usage that it was expected for people to know the term, but they still explained it, mainly to set up the joke, right? And I love when we can see a phrase in the comics because it gives a good insight to how it's understood at the time frame. Up next, we'll look at how the phrase is used today, but first, a quick thank you to our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by our amazing patrons on Patreon. It's 100% free to join the Bunny Trails community, so give our weekly discussions and poll questions a try.
If you love our content and want more, we have some paid tiers too, including early access to the week's episode, a weekly behind-the-scenes video, and original digital artwork once a month made by me.
You can also get awesome name recognition like Pat Rowe and JGP do every episode. And our top spot is currently occupied by the amazing Mary Hulsig Lopez. You can join the Bunny Trails community for free at Bunny Trails Pod on Patreon. That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod.
Today, AWOL is used to describe anyone who has just left a space for any length of time. It's sometimes used in a negative context, but the term itself is often meant more neutrally. AWOL Nation is a band most known for their song Sail. The group's name comes from a high school nickname given to frontman Aaron Bruno, who was called AWOL because he would leave without saying goodbye, often from social gatherings such as parties. He'd just take off. He's like, I'm done.
I used to do this too in my 20s when I would be at a place and I would just hit my emotional, like, I don't want to be here anymore, and I would just leave, and they would call me Disappearing Dan.
That's awesome. AWOL is a 2016 movie that uses the term to apply to multiple facets of the story. Here's a description from YouTube Movies. Quote, Lola Kirk shines as Joey, an aimless high school graduate searching for a way out of Pennsylvania coal country. A visit to an Army recruiting office appears to provide a path. However, a chance encounter with magnetic Raina, a slyly seductive housewife and mother neglected by her long-haul trucker husband, changes Joey's trajectory irrevocably. As Joey falls more in love with Raina, clouded judgment leads her down a path she can't turn back from. With powerful performances from Kirk and Wool, director Deb Chauvel's feature film debut is a splendid and brooding meditation on the boundless possibilities of first love constricted by the trials of rural poverty. End quote. I won't share any spoilers here, but by the end of the movie, it isn't entirely clear what aspect of life the character is going AWOL from. We're going to discuss this a little more in our behind the scenes, which airs every Friday. Find that at patreon.com/bunnytrailspod. It seems that advice has been shared amongst people since we gained the ability to communicate, and Dear Abby is one of the more well-known advice columns of the last several decades. An article by Jan Phillips was published to the column online at the Mercury News, January 16th, 2026. The article is titled, Dear Abby, my AWOL coworkers put me in a bad situation. Should I make everybody else stay late because a few have strayed? And here's an excerpt from the article. Quote, my issue is that whenever we call a short break, some subset of people will wander away to unknown destinations. Are they looking for coffee, a bandage, a reevaluation of their life goals? We never know. I'm left with two choices, hold everyone up and wait for them to return, which is polite but ensures we will all end the day late, or start without them, end quote. I don't really read advice columns, but I'll admit that I agreed with the start of the answer, which reads, quote, stop being such a pushover, end quote.
Yep, fair enough.
There's more advice than that, but I thought that sentence summed it up fairly well.
Yeah, I think she said, well, it's polite to wait for them. No, they were being impolite by not being back on time, and now
Right.
you're being impolite to everyone who was back on time by not starting on time.
Yeah.
So unless you are in a cultural place where everyone is going to wait on a particular person before you start, which if that's the case, that's fine. But since that wasn't expressed here, you're trying to be polite to the ones being impolite to you, but doing it at the expense of people who are doing what you've asked.
Right. Like you gave it time, that's it. And you just got to deal with it. And they have to deal with it too. So that's AWOL, a term that started in the military, meant to describe someone who was absent without permission, and somehow made its way into everyday language as a much lighter, almost casual way to say someone disappeared. It's one of those phrases that still carries its original seriousness, even when we use it jokingly. Whether it's a soldier missing from duty or a friend who fell off the map for a few days, AWOL always implies more than just not here. It implies unaccounted for. So, next time someone goes AWOL on your group chat, just know you're borrowing a phrase with way more weight than it sounds like. That's about all we have for today. If you have any thoughts on the show or pop culture references we should have included, reach out to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod, or comment on our website, bunnytrailspod.com.
It is poll time. Recently, we asked our patrons, what kind of challenges do you most enjoy?
JGP said, quote, "Crafts for me, even though I have been crocheting for decades, I am always finding new techniques and stitches to try and new things to attempt to make. I also love finding ways to reuse and upcycle things. A few years ago, I taught myself a knotting technique for rugs that are made from various things like old sheets or t-shirts or whatever. A nice, fun challenge that both keeps me busy and also keeps stuff out of the landfill. And I get a rug I can use at the end. Win-win." End quote.
That's great.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. I realized I might just like the challenge part because I enjoy any of these. It's like, ooh, a challenge.
I like tackling issues and creating actionable solutions, so I'd probably put myself in the solving puzzles or complex problems territory. I don't love dealing with really, really big issues that don't have a solution. So what I tend to do is I take those big issues and I narrow the scope until we can find something that's actionable, and then I repeat that with another narrowed scope. So how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Dustin shared, quote, "I put down puzzles and new skills because learning languages are a big puzzle to me and they make me happy. Y'all are a big part of that journey. You help me know English better. I'd like to master Korean before I have one foot in the grave." End quote.
Wow.
That is also a great idiom, Dustin, one foot in the grave.
I like it.
Well, as a reminder, our silly polls mean absolutely nothing and are not scientifically valid. And patrons of all levels, including our free tiers, can take part. Head over to patreon.com/bunnytrailspod to take this week's poll. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, remember, words belong to their users.